Hello guys, Tristan here, back with another video. Today we're doing another Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile. Today I'm going to be looking at Paleozoics. This is one of my favorite decks right now, easily my #1 spot over DDs right now. DDs unfortunately they're not doing too well in the current format, but that's completely fine. It's still like my favorite deck overall. But this deck, I love what it can do, and I'll get right into it. We're gonna start with the monsters. There's not very many of them. Unfortunately, the amount of monsters sometimes conflicts with a certain card, but it's fine for now. We may make some adjustments in the future. But first, we're playing 3 Absolute King Backjack. I love this card. It's got a grave effect. You can look at the top 3 and choose the order, and then during your opponent's turn, while it's on the grave, you can banish it. Quick effect to look at the top card. If it's a trap, set it and activate it that turn. So this is definitely good. It's good for digging through the deck. It's good for, helping with consistency and stuff, because 60 cards is a lot. We're also going to be playing 3 Soldier Dragons. I'm still a little iffy on this card. It's good because the second your opponent activates anything, you can special summon another one of them from the deck, or special summon your Laundry Dragon Maid, which is good. It's great and all, but it doesn't do anything aside from that. So it's a little disappointing in that fashion. It's not an Aqua type, so you can't use it for all your Xyz plays or anything like that, unfortunately. However, there's a card that is really good right now in this deck, and that's Magical Soul. This card, it feels like a merit card to me, if that makes any sense. But basically, if this card is in your hand or grave, but by the way, if it's in your hand, you can't use it after you use Time Tearing. But if it's in your grave or hand and you special summon a monster through a trap effect, basically any of your Paleos, you can special summon this card, and then it gets banished when it leaves the field if you summon it from the grave. But it's a tuner, which means you can use it to go into Herald of the Arclight if you want, and it's Aqua, so you can use it to go into Toad. The other effect it has that makes it really good is that during either battle phase, or is it opponent's battle phase? Only during opponent's battle phase, my bad, you can use it to Xyz summon or Synchro summon, so that's good. For the last 2 monsters, we have Laundry Dragon Maid and then Iperia. Laundry Dragon Maid, basically you just mill the top 3 whenever it's summoned, and Iperia, when it's summoned in any way, including flip summoning, you can draw a card, so that's good to help with the consistency. For the spells, we are of course running Grass because it's 60 cards and we have so many grave effects. We have Reasoning for the same reason. Problem is that Reasoning, sometimes you get really unlucky and top card you look at as a monster, unfortunately. And anyone who knows this deck knows to declare 2 because, you don't want your opponent summoning anything, and we have a lot of level 2s. Of course, we also play Card of Demise. I've been a little iffy on this card because if you manage to do some stuff during your first turn and you open this card, you can't use it. And the only time you'd want to use the card is if you just can't do anything, or if you open it on your first turn. But aside from that, it's a good card. Draw 3 cards. You send your hand to the grave, but that's fine because you're typically going to try and get traps to set anyway. But of course, I also play triple Time Tearing and 1 Song Succumbing. Now, people have asked me why I play Song Succumbing. It's very simple. It's just to get you a Time Tearing, because with all the milling you do, you're not always going to get your Morganite in your hand, and you want to get Morganite as soon as possible. So Song Succumbing is definitely a way to do that. I don't play it left arm offering or thrust because I feel like thrust is too situational. Also, it's way too expensive. You need to have your opponent have activated a monster effect, and typically your goal is to prevent your opponent from doing that. So thrust doesn't really work. And left arm offering, you have to send cards from your hand to the grave, and that's sort of useless. It definitely doesn't help all the time. Just to get 1 single spell, I don't know if it's worth it. But we also play 3 Trap Tantalizing because the amount of traps we have, discarding a trap to draw 2 is busted. It's basically just Pot of Greed plus a grave effect if you have one that you discard to the grave that has a grave effect. So that's good, and that's all for the spells. For the traps, we're going to start with the Paleos. There's a lot of traps here. So we're going to play 3 copies of Morella, 3 copies of Olenoids, 3 copies of Canadia, 3 copies of Leontralia, and only 2 copies of Dynamishkus. I lowered it down to 2 because I felt like a lot of times I was drawing it when I didn't want it, and it's you have to discard a card to use it, which can be useful, but you only really need 2. Let's be honest. There's 14 Paleos over 15 is not a huge difference. Then we of course play 3 copies of Transaction Rollback, the card that makes this deck work the way it does. And there's so many different combos and techs you can do involving rollback. I can't even mention them all in this video, but I do use one that I absolutely love. We also play 3 Trap Trick so you make sure you get the traps you need. We got 3 Needlebug Nest, which is basically draw 5. It's not mill 5, it's draw 5. And then this is a very interesting card that I decided to add in. This was my personal idea myself. magical hats, and most of you are probably confused by this, but if you didn't know, magical hats is a TCG effect, is way different from the anime effect. Basically, you can take any 2 spell or traps from your deck, you choose them, and you shuffle them face down on the field with another monster you control during your opponent's battle phase. And I don't think I need to explain why that's broken. Being able to take any 2 spell or traps, your rollbacks, your rise to heights, whatever, a target for rollback, like whatever you need, and no matter what, it goes to the graveyard, and that's pretty crazy. Like, it goes to the grave at the end of the battle phase, or your opponent attacks it and it goes to the grave. So summoning 2 extra bodies, and plus it's a trap, so you can use it to trigger a Paleo Engrave, which is also good. We also got 3 Karma Cannon, 3 Waboku, and 3 Rise to Full Height, which if you didn't know, you can banish it from your grave to target monster control. Your opponent can only attack that monster, basically meaning that your opponent won't be able to attack you directly at all, or any other monster you control. And its activation effect, if you set it, is just to double the defense of a monster, which I've actually used before to a great effect. Also play 2 copies of Balance of Judgment. Being able to draw a fuck ton of cards off of this is so satisfying, like, I can't even explain. You just have to see it for yourself. Dragon Maid's Hiding, when this card's in the grave, you can banish it to Special Summon Laundry from your grave. That's basically all it does. And of course, Elemental Burst, which has an effect where you contribute 1 of each attribute to destroy all cards your opponent controls. This card sucks, but with rollback, since rollback ignores cost, you can just copy this effect in grave, and guess what? Boom, your whole opponent's board is nuked. And that's pretty insane that you can just do that. For the extra deck, I'm playing 2 copies of Animalakaris. This card is really good. I originally had 1 copy because I didn't quite see how useful the card was, but it's pretty good. Definitely want to play 2 of those, but you want to play 3 of is Opabinia. Definitely want to play 3 Opabinia. Opabinia is just a great card. I love that all the pillars are unaffected by monster effects because it means that they're immune to stuff like Nibiru, Ash, and Effect Failure. They're still affected by like Imperm and stuff like that, but I absolutely love these cards. We also got Gigantic Sprite, which can be used to summon out your Hyperia or your Laundry or like any other level 2 if you really want to. You also got Totally Awesome, you know, you need that negate in the deck. We got number 2 Ninja Shadow Mosquito, which you can surprise your opponent with this during their battle phase using Soul's Effect. And if you didn't know what it does, all monsters your opponent controls must attack, and as soon as an attack is declared, you can attach material to either place a counter on the opponent's monster, it doesn't target, places, and it negates the effects, or you can activate the effect when an attack is declared to inflict damage to your opponent equal to a monster with a counter on it. So if your opponent has a whole lot of monsters on the field, you can kill them with just this card. And what's crazy about that is that if you use Rise to Full Height to target it, that means that all your other monsters are safe, and you just have Ninja Shadow Mosquito, and it doesn't take any damage. You don't take any damages involving it. It's kind of like Nightmare Pain from U-Belt. But we also play the 1 downer to help go into Zeus. We got Typhon and Zeus. Typhon's actually really helpful for your backjack, because you summon backjack, and let's say like you don't go into Anima because you don't have Anima or something, like you already used it. Well, you can just go into this if your opponent's summoned during their turn, and then detach it. And no matter what, even if they negate it, since it detaches for cost, you can so easily just get your backjack engraved and then go from there. That's it for the Xyz. We also play the 1 Synchro Herald of the Arclight, and it's pretty cool that you can summon this card. It's another negate, which is cool, but it's also a floodgate for your opponent, and that's pretty neat. And being able to summon it during your opponent's turn is funny also. We got Sprint to get Soul Engrave, and also it has an effect when a monster is summoned to bounce a monster, which is good. We also got Paleozoic Camber, and this is actually, I like this card a lot, I really do. And a lot of people don't know this card even exists, who know what Paleo is, but for some reason it's not a very popular card. I don't know why, but it's a good card. Basically, you can send any set card, including your opponent's set cards, to the grave to set a Paleozoic trap right from your deck. Like, that's pretty crazy. That's stronger than Opabinia's effect. Opabinia lets you activate from hand and lets you search, but this just lets you set one, and that's pretty great. And of course, Anima. You know, Anima can be helpful, but it's mainly just to get rid of your backjack. For the side deck, we are playing 3 copies of Ice Dragon's Prison. Really good card. We're also playing 3 Witch's Strike. Basically, if your opponent negates the activation of a card you control, or a monster you summon, like and they negate the summon, you can destroy all cards your opponent controls or in their hand, and that is pretty crazy. We also play DDG to disrupt graveyard stuff, because a lot of graveyard relevant decks right now. We play 3 Torrential Tribute, and this actually comes up a surprising amount if you're going first and you set it and then your opponent cooks and cooks until you Torrential Tribute them. Kind of like getting nibbed. We also play Fiend Griefing and Fiend Comedian. I love Fiend Comedian so much, it's such a goofy card. Anyway, that's it for the Paleozoic deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to see me do test hands with this deck, I can make another video on that. If this video gets 5 likes, I'll make a Paleozoic test hand video. But thank you guys so much for watching, and peace out.